everybody.
Hey guys.
Oh, he's here.
I
Excuse me.
saw a big boss around.
Already been done, Mom. Especially because he's here.
Do we have to unmute Jim? Is that a wise move? Was I muted then? I don't know.
No, I heard you loud and clear. All good. All good, brother.
Oh, good. And we have.
Kayla's off to a fast start.
Yeah.
Hey Sam, how you doing?
Good to see you, Tom.
You too. How's it going?
I'm great. You?
Okay, getting by.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hey Janet, how you doing?
My sister's here somewhere too. Let me
Yeah, I
spotlight her.
don't think I've ever met your sister.
Well, because she wasn't on the cruise. There she is.
Okay, I see her. Hey,
That's
how
her
you doing?
fiance, Jeremy, wearing
Hey, Jeremy.
They're muted.
Is that a Ohio State shirt?
You unmute her?
No, it's
She's
already too
muted.
late.
You can unmute, Sam.
Let me.
There, you're unmuted.
There we go.
Can't hear you, Aim. Volume.
Kiki, come here.
Oh, the dog. I love his dog.
Tiki's here.
I love your dog, Tom. I love your dog.
I try again. Hi, Tom. I'm Amy. I'm Sam's sister. It's so nice to meet you. This is my fiance, Jeremy.
Hey, Tom. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here.
Tell him where you live. He must know restaurants down there.
We're in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. I've never been.
Really? Oh my gosh, you have to come down.
We have a place for you to stay. Oh, I lost Zoom. How did I get out of Zoom?
You're still in Zoom, Mom.
Yeah, you're still there.
Okay.
Still here.
No. Okay, I did something.
Jason, we ready to start?
Ready to start.
Let's rock and roll then.
All right.
Something's.
Whoop, sorry. So Sam, kick us off, sir.
Actually, Jim's starting first.
Okay.
If you can pull that slide up. So this is Jim Schmutz. I'm the president and CEO for Special Olympics Maryland. And Tom, I just want to thank you very much for being here with us this evening. We're gonna get to Sam here in just a second, but just for everybody who's joined us, want to take advantage of giving folks an opportunity to really connect with our mission and understand the importance of our athlete leadership program. Sam has demonstrated his exceptional leadership. He's been a Special Olympics athlete now. It's 7 years, correct, Sam?
Seems like it's been 7 years. I don't know. I can't even count.
Yeah, Sam did a great job last week for us when we had an inclusion experience. And so we currently serve 8,716 Special Olympics Maryland athletes. We had to go dormant back in March as COVID reared its ugly head. We returned to play back in July, but in the interim, we introduced a series of virtual programming through our virtual movement website and activities that were led by Jason and our athlete leaders like Sam. So we're grateful to have athletes like Sam, and Sam in particular, as one of our exceptional athlete leaders. Our vision is to grow the program to reach more athletes across the state. We've got 115,000 people in the state with an intellectual disability, and we're currently reaching 8,716. So we feel like we can do better. And obviously this has challenged us in terms of our growth given the lack of activity. But we've had good activity over the last 6 to 8 weeks with athletes getting out there playing flag football, soccer, golf, track and field, bocce, cycling, kayaking. In fact, on this Sunday, we've got a cycling competition. So all good things, but we certainly want to reach more athletes. So as we continue to move forward, our athletes are going to really be key to our leadership, both in terms of helping identify new athletes and serving as recruiters for them. Our families like Janet, Richard, and Amy are great spokespeople to talk about the value of Special Olympics and the impact that it has not only on our athletes and our families, but really how it can transform communities. So, and this is just a shining example of that. The relationship, Tom, that Sam has forged with you, and you're embracing Sam and the concept of interactive inclusion, and really demonstrating the respect and giving Sam the dignity that all of our athletes deserve is just an unbelievable example. And so we are so excited to have you this evening. And the only thing that stands between me and a really good interaction is turning it over to Sam. So Sam, you got it.
I was muted for a second. Excuse me. All right. First thing first, I want to thank you guys all for coming out to this amazing social club. And now I think it's time to do a little introduction. So I'm going to talk about my friend Tom here before he introduces himself. So Tom is chef and owner of Crafted Hospitality, which includes restaurants in New York, Crafts River Park, Crafts River Park and Temple Court, Craft LA, Las Vegas Heritage Steak, Craft Steak, and Small Batch in Garden City, New York. Tom is also the head judge and executive producer of the Emmy-winning Bravo hit series Top Chef, one of my favorite shows. A vocal and outspoken social justice advocate, Tom executive produced the 2013 document, A Place at the Table, about the underlying causes of hunger in the U.S. This eye-opening experience took Tom to Washington, D.C., where he has been a mainstay since. He is also a frequent contributor on MSNBC and is the host of the iHeartRadio podcast, Citizen Chef. Tom and his restaurants give back to the community through their impact partnership with Feast and by serving on the boards of Children with Bellevue, the Independent Restaurant Coalition, City Harvest, and Wholesome Wave. He lives in Brooklyn with his wife, Lori Silverbush, and their 3 sons. While not in the kitchen, Tom can be found tending his North Fork, Long Island garden, fishing, or playing guitar. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce to you all the head judge and executive producer of Top Chef, and also a good friend of mine, Mr. Tom Colicchio.
Hey, Sam, thank you. Wow, it's some introduction. It's a lot to live up to. Yeah, you know, I was fortunate enough today to do all 3 of the things that I love to do. I managed to get some fishing in. I've been away for 2 months. I was off shooting season 18 of Top Chef. I just returned home on Saturday. And this morning started out as a really terrible, kind of wet, cloudy day. I took the kids to school, and but I managed to get some fishing in. I played guitar, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the garden, but I pull up some sweet potatoes. So it's a pretty good day when I get to do all those things. And now I'm here with you, Sam. So it's just turned into went from a pretty good day to a great day. So thanks for having me here. You know, Sam and I met, for those that don't know the story, Sam and I met years ago on a Top Chef cruise. And it was kind of funny because I was a little reluctant to take that cruise, not knowing what I was signing on for. And thankfully I said yes, because I got to meet Sam and his mom and dad. And we were playing a kind of Jeopardy Top Chef trivia. And someone didn't show. You had to fill out, I don't know how they did it, but you had to fill out some kind of questionnaire or something. And Sam wasn't chosen, but someone didn't show up. And I noticed Sam, I was up on the stage, and I noticed that Sam was very enthusiastically trying to answer every question. And so at one point I said, you know what, get this guy up here, get him on stage, because clearly he was a super fan and was really, kind of knowledgeable, more so than I am. I don't remember half what I've done on the show. And Sam came up and of course crushed it, won the competition, and we've been friendly ever since. And occasionally he comes up to New York and we get to spend some time. Yeah, that was the cruise. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's the picture when after I won the championship,
Yeah.
I think.
And I gotta say, Sam, watching you grow, I mean, I think when I first met you, I don't know if you would have, so easily got up there and made the introduction, and you seem to, really have come into your own. And even when we first met, you were somewhat shy, very, very shy about talking around me, and look at you now. But yeah, over the years, Sam, his mom brought us up to the restaurant, and we got to hang out a little bit. And it's just, I'm so thrilled to see that you're doing so well, and we've been able to maintain our relationship over the years. And,
Here's the final results in the trivia, I think.
It wasn't even close. not even close. And so I am so thrilled that I was able to make that cruise. But I got to say, it's been great to get to know you over the years and to see how much you've grown, and I'm sure your mom and dad are really proud of you.
All right, now for the fun part. We're going to launch some polls for you guys. Tom, you don't have to obviously answer this unless you want to.
Okay.
So we're going to launch the first one now.
Yeah, okay.
You guys have about 30 seconds to answer this, please.
I should answer these questions, see if I get them all right.
Mhm.
Should I answer the question at a certain point?
After the time is up,
Okay.
You can reveal the results if you like.
Okay, all right.
I'm just gonna announce. Okay. Let's see if we can get one more person in to vote, if possible. Or not.
You have a
There we
25%
go.
chance of getting it right if you guess.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna end the poll right here. So the question is, where's Tom from? The options are California, Jersey, New York, and Ohio. So I'm gonna look at the results here. They said New York, but Tom, you know the answer probably more than anybody.
This is not true, although I live in New York now, and I did, I guess for 3 months, I lived in California. I've been to Ohio a few times, but I was born and raised in New Jersey. Actually,
Elizabeth, New Jersey. I remember.
New Jersey in Union County, and I still have most of my family still lives in New Jersey. I originally moved to Manhattan and then Brooklyn, and I still reside both in Brooklyn and out here on the North Fork of Long Island.
All right, now for an interesting one. Did Tom go to culinary school? Let's launch the polls here. Obviously, there's a 50-50 chance of you getting it right.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get maybe one more person in. All right, I'm going to end the results here. So obviously, so the question is yes or no.
The answer is no. So when I was about 15 or so, my dad suggested I become a chef. And my dad and I, we didn't have those long heart-to-heart conversations that some kids have with their dads. But somehow he knew that I loved, and he obviously knew that I loved to cook, and he made the suggestion. I think when he made the suggestion, I don't think he had any idea. I think he thought maybe I'd be a chef, standing in some little kitchen somewhere with, stirring tomato sauce and But he did make that suggestion, and I planned on going to the Culinary Institute of America, and
Good old CIA in Hyde Park.
yeah, in Hyde Park, yeah, and I applied, and you had to work at 2 restaurants before they would accept your application, and so I started working, and first restaurant I worked in was a very large seafood restaurant called Evelyn's, and then from there, I went on to work at a restaurant called Chestnut Tavern. It was a small, actually no, hold on a second. From there, I ended up going to places like a restaurant in town called, I forget the name of it, but it was, 2 guys who had just graduated from culinary. I worked with them. I worked at a red sauce Italian restaurant for a while. I worked in a hotel, all along planning on going to culinary school. And then I took a job at the Quilted Giraffe, which was a 4-star New York Times restaurant in never too late. Yeah, sure. I don't think so. I think it's way too late for me to go to culinary school.
No.
And so I was working at 4-star. It was considered one of the best restaurants in the world, and I was there for 4 months. And the chef, they gave me the sous chef's position, and at that point, I decided not to go to culinary school. Also, I wasn't the best student. I most likely, like all my children, would have been diagnosed with ADHD, and I had a very, very difficult time with certain material at school. Really struggled with things like algebra and writing. I was a terrible writer. To this day, still am. Anything that you see written from me, my wife usually handles that. And so I decided to just continue on my career path, and very shortly after that position, I took my first chef's job in New Jersey and then in New York.
Yeah, I was also diagnosed with ADHD as well.
Yeah.
All right, so now for the next question. Now this is a tough one for those of you guys who don't know your culinary history, but that's okay. Who did Tom Colicchio start the Gramercy Tavern with back in the day? The options are Danny Meyer, myself, Padma, or Wolfgang Puck.
I love the choices.
I know, right? Shout out to Lexi, who actually made the polls. Where is she? All right, can we get maybe like 2 more votes?
I love this. Definitely Sam.
That's Jason who said that, so no worries on that. Or Jim. All right. Now for the fun part. So who did Tom start Gramercy Tavern with back in the day? I actually know this one.
I love that you got 26%, Sam.
I'll take it.
No, the answer is Danny Meyer. So Danny, I was a chef at a restaurant called Mondrian. Danny had a restaurant called Union Square Cafe, still does.
Yeah, that's right.
I knew he was a fan of my restaurant because he would come in like once a month. And he and I met in 1991 in Aspen, Colorado during the Food and Wine Festival. In 1991, Food and Wine, they every year they give 10 best new chefs, and I received an award as well as the chef at Union Square Cafe, Mike Formano. And so Danny and I met there, and then the following year I went back. Once you're sort of inducted into the family, they invite you back every year. So I went back, and the following year I was talking to Danny. I was having lunch with him, and I said, when I get back to New York, I'd like to talk to you about something. And he said, give me a call. So I called him and told him that I was closing the restaurant. The restaurant, even though Mondrian got great reviews, the underlying business deal was pretty bad. And so we ended up closing the restaurant. I called Danny and I said, Danny, we should get together. I think you like what I do. I like what you do. We should do a restaurant together. And his response was, I never want to do another restaurant again. Now, this is from a guy that has about 26 restaurants and started Shake Shack.
Back in the day.
He said, one's enough. And a week later, he called me back. And he said, let's talk. And so what we did is we decided to take a trip together. We actually got on a plane, went to Italy together for 10 days. We figured if we can travel together, we could work together. And so, 10 days of travel turned into around 10 years of working together. Maybe we should have taken a 2-week, a 20-day trip. But it worked out really great for both of us. Danny said that the reason he called me back is he spoke to a mutual friend of ours who was in the wine business. And you probably, a lot of you won't get this reference, some may. And his friend told him, if Sandy Koufax called you up and told you you wanted to pitch for your team, you'd probably listen to him. Some of the older people here got that one, huh?
My mom knew that right away.
Yeah.
My mom, my dad, Jason, Jim.
Yeah, I saw James gave a rousing, fist pump for that one.
Yeah. All right. So the next question, let me get the poll in here. Let's launch a restaurant question here. So how many crafted hospitality restaurants does Tom have? The question is 2, 4, 6, 13.
That could be a trick question.
That's true. There should be a fifth option, 2-minute account, just for fun.
Well, no. But I think
Yeah, that's true. All right.
I see what you did there, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now for the fun part. So how many restaurants right now does Tom have?
Well, the answer is it's 6, and this is interesting because I have Kraft and River Park and Temple Court, and we have Small Batch, and then we have 1 restaurant in Los Angeles. So really that's 5, and then there's 2 in Las Vegas. So it could be 7, but I don't know if you can count the 2 in Las Vegas because I just licensed those. I don't own those. So the answer could be 5. And then we're working on a food hall. COVID kind of delayed it a bit, a food hall in Kansas City.
We have those here actually too.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's I don't know if the real answer is there, Sam. I think it's and right now, well, LA's open, Kraft is open, Small Batch is open, Temple Court is open, River Park is not. And
Yeah, Target is in a hotel.
No, Temple Court's in the hotel. River
Oh,
Park
that's
is the one that's all the way on the east side. That's in this medical research complex, and that's not open right now. They didn't want the campus open. They're actually, some of the people up there are involved in looking for the vaccine or doing research for the vaccine. So they want as few people as possible on that campus. So they shut us down. So yeah, that's what we have going right now. Who knows after COVID? Who knows if I'll have any restaurants open? It's been really tough out there.
I know a lot of some restaurants that are great here in Maryland actually ended up closing.
Yeah, a lot of restaurants. There's the work that I'm doing with the Independent Restaurant Coalition. We're trying to get the government to help restaurants out. And in fact, our bill called the Restaurants Act is part of the Stimulus Act, the HEROES Act. Unfortunately, the bickering that we have in Washington right now, they can't seem to pass that. If they did, it would save all independent restaurants in this country. Without that, estimates are that between 65 to 80% of all independent restaurants will close in this country. So, we're really looking at some real uncertain times ahead of us, and everyone's obviously hoping and praying for a vaccine, but my concern is even if we get a vaccine, it's going to take probably a year or so to administer a vaccine. So we're looking at some real hard times coming up for the restaurant industry. Fingers crossed that maybe when the Senate comes back, maybe they'll decide that it's worth helping people, and they'll figure this out. But it's been tough out there.
All right.
This cough, by the way, is not COVID. I have a touch of bronchitis.
That's all right.
Just so you know.
All right. Now for the next question. So how many James the Beard Awards has Tom won? You got 6, 9, 8, or 1. Let's see how many people got right on this one.
It's another good question. I gotta count. Yeah, so while we're waiting for this, there's a question about can the athletes contact their senators and congressmen to support the bill? Absolutely. Currently, the reason why our bill was included in the HEROES Act is that we have, the bill was written by Earl Blumenauer, who's a congressman from the Portland, Oregon area. He wrote the bill in the House, and we have 203 co-sponsors in the House. On the Senate side, Roger Wicker, who's a Republican out of Mississippi, wrote it, and on the Senate side, I believe we had 48 co-sponsors. Typically, when a bill has that many co-sponsors, it passes in some way, shape, or form, and that's part of the reason why we were included in the HEROES Act, because the original HEROES Act that was voted on and passed the House back in May did not include the Restaurants Act, and we managed to get a lot of work done and get it in there. So absolutely. Please, call your member of Congress and tell them to support the Restaurants Act, and really tell them to pass the HEROES Act.
All right, so those of you guys don't know what the James Beard Awards are, they're basically like the Oscars of cooking, so to speak, I think.
Just about.
Yeah, so here's the fun part, the results. So how many James Beard Awards has Tom won? So everybody thinks it's 9, but you're close.
So I think it's 8, but I'm not sure. I think it could be 7 or 8. It's more than 6 because I'll try to figure them out. So Best Chef New York, right? Best Chef Country. You have to win your region to get nominated for country. I won for Best New Restaurant for craft. My book won 1. Okay, one for
Speaking of books, I have them right behind me.
I see that. Service at Gramercy Tavern. That's 5. A Who's Who, which is 6. Then we won 1 for Top Chef as well, a James Beard Media Award. So that's 7.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's 7. That's you left out the Media Award, I think. But so I believe it's 7.
Yeah, Top Chef also won an Emmy as well.
Yes, it did. And in fact, the only James Beard Award that I have that I know where it is right now is I'm looking at it now. It's actually wrapped around the Emmy. My
that's
dog
funny.
She wants to go out for a walk. Hold on one second.
Okay. Can we play some Jeopardy, some Jeopardy final music, please? Just kidding.
No, she's okay. I'm back. She's okay. My wife is not home, and so
that's okay.
She needs to go out, but she's just playing with kids.
So the next question, and this is actually the final one. This is probably going to be an easy one. What show has Tom Colicchio been featured on? Of the options, you have the Great British Bake Off on Netflix, Top Chef, Chopped, or all of the above. I think that your dog says all of the above.
He says all the above.
Yeah, but I'm not entirely sure. Okay. Wait. All right, I'm gonna end the poll. The group says it says all of the above, actually.
No, only Top Chef.
I actually know that.
But you could have thrown in Treme, which was a show on HBO that was really good, and there's probably a few. I did a cameo in the Smurf movie as well.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
I actually had a line, which was hysterical. So yeah, the Smurfs.
Yeah,
and
Tim Gunn was there too. That's right.
I think so. I think you're right. That was a pretty funny evening. They called up and they said, just show up, wear a suit and tie, whatever. The scene is a party on a roof. I was like, all right, whatever. Smurfs. Okay, how bad could it be? And I got there. They said, we want to give you a line that you're going to have to, I think I had to point to the moon and say something about it being a blue moon or something. I don't know. But it was pretty funny. Yeah. Tiki.
All right, now that's the end of the poll. Now for some fun questions. And then after this, the guys are going to ask, everybody in the audience can ask some questions. But first, all right, can you tell us your favorite story or memory from the show so far on Top Chef?
Oh boy, for me, my favorite thing, my favorite memory, so we've been doing the show for 15, 16 years or so, 18 seasons. And
Yeah, you and Gail are the OGs.
yeah, we are. And so what I really love about the show is, and this was a funny season, and I'll talk about that as well. But for me, it's going back is like going to summer camp. And I didn't go to summer camp as a kid, but it's always the same crew, same production team. And so it's for 6-7 weeks, we're all together and we hang out, we have a great time. I play guitar and several other crew members either play various instruments. And so we'll get together at night and play. So that to me is it. It's the friendships that I've actually made over the years. And again, we go there and for 6 weeks we hang out and then we don't see each other for a year and we go back for the next 6 weeks and do it again. So that's it. Having the Muppets on our show was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and All Stars.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. This season, and I can talk about this now a little bit.
You guys filmed in a bubble. That's right.
Well, we did. We filmed in a bubble. So we've got 150 people on our crew, believe it or not. And so we rented out one hotel. And look at that, James. Nice work with the Heroes Act up in the chat. The crew, they were only allowed to go from the hotel to the set. On their days off, they couldn't leave the hotel. And they had activities set up for them in the hotel. Instead of having guest judges like we normally do, we had some of our alum. They were in the bubble with us, and they were not only the judges, but they were the diners too, because we couldn't bring in diners like we normally bring in.
Yeah, I think I saw that on Instagram a little bit because I think Melissa celebrated her birthday.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people, and so it was really interesting filming the way we had to film. But the great thing about it was no one got sick. 150 people, not one person got sick. We were tested every other day. There were 3 different zones, and when you were on the set, you had to wear a mask as well. And so it was really difficult for the crew, having to wear masks the whole time they were there. We didn't have to. The judges and the contestants were considered a group A. And so we could take our mask off when we were actually on the actual set. Our set is set up in a warehouse. So in the warehouse, we were supposed to wear masks. But once we got onto the set, we were allowed to take them off. Obviously, when we're eating, we could. Social distancing, we try to keep some space. We were constantly washing hands. There was hand washing stations all over the place. But it was definitely difficult, but it worked out. And I was really glad that we did it. The downside is we weren't allowed to go out. So typically when you go to a city like Portland, there's great restaurants and couldn't go to them, couldn't go out. We had to stay in. I was allowed, I brought my dog with me.
At least you had somebody with you.
Yeah, I know. I brought the dog because she's a pup. And we moved from Brooklyn to Long Island, and my kids were in new school. And my wife was really holding that down by herself, and so I agreed to take the dog with me. So I could walk the dog, and that was about it. So it was that was the tough part about going to a new city like that and not being able to get out there. But it was we made a good show, and a lot of places, a lot of shows are dark right now. And look at Broadway. Those poor actors, they're not working at all.
I know, right?
And God knows when they're going to reopen. It's really tough out there. But that's it. That's probably the best memory. I mean, and over the years, getting to meet a lot of young chefs that I'd never properly meet, and getting to watch their growth, and some of them have gone on to superstardom, and so that's been great to see.
Do you keep up with a lot of them?
The fact that so many people, just like you, Sam, so many, we met. I think you were what, 15 or so? Is that right?
Oh no, I'm 28. So I was.
Oh, how old are you then?
I was, I think 21. I think
21,
Mom.
okay.
I think I don't remember. It was
Yeah,
2014.
there's so many, I said kids. I'm 58. It's ranging from not toddlers, but like young teens to people up to 30 that just I run into, and they say how much they love the show. They grew up watching the show, just like you did, and that's kind of neat. Knowing that you can have that kind of impact on someone's life. You sometimes forget when you're making a show that you can have that kind of impact, and that's kind of neat. So yeah,
Um,
those are some of my favorite memories.
So do you have a favorite dish that was made on the show? And if so, what was it? If you could pick like one dish.
Everything Melissa made in her finale last year was just so good.
Yeah, she nailed it. I was happy for
Yeah,
her.
she did. You know, it's hard. I don't. The funny thing, Sam, I'm not like you. I don't remember the dishes. I don't remember any of them. I have a terrible memory for this stuff. Like I don't. You'll say, you know, just the other day. I didn't say the other day. A few seconds ago, when I mentioned the Muppets, you're like, "Oh, All-Star season." I had no idea.
Well, I've been rewatching all the seasons on Hulu. They're all on Hulu except for All Stars 2.
I don't remember them. If you mention it, you know, I'll remember. But I don't remember them. There was some over the years, especially in the last, you know, 10 seasons. The food's just getting better and better, and there's so much good food. There's a lot of so-so food too at times. And even some of the best chefs make, you know, kind of mess up because that clock is not your friend. But there's been so many good dishes over the years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how long does it usually take for you guys to film an episode?
Yeah, so it takes 2 days to shoot an episode typically. It's 1 day for quickfire, 1 day for elimination.
And how about the entire season?
So it changes. We used to shoot in 5 weeks. Now we're shooting more like 7 because we used to shoot quickfire, elimination, just keep going. And we had to stop that. I think is, you know, Bob and I started getting a little older. We're like, you know, we can't go at that pace anymore. So now it's quickfire, elimination, and then there's an interview day. So we'll get a break, and then it's so it takes about 7 weeks, and then there's usually a break, and then we go on to shoot the finale.
Yeah, at least a month or so, maybe at least.
It all depends. So, yeah, somewhere from a month to 3 months at times. Yeah.
So how much do you guys get to eat each? How much do you get to eat each episode?
It varies. You know, beginning of the season when there's 17 chefs, it's a lot of food. When you get down to 6 and 7.
It's so hard to not stay full, I'm sure.
Oh God, sometimes it's brutal. Like last season, remember last season, Sam, when the contestants prior to Restaurant Wars, they had to actually pitch their concept.
Yeah. We
had to eat all that food for all those pitched concepts. It was brutal. We were sitting there for 4 or 5 hours eating food. I felt so disgusting after I finished. But what I try to do, because I eat so much food on the set, is I'll take 1 day when I'm not working, and maybe I'll have a light breakfast and try not to eat the rest of the day. And then next day, knowing elimination, I'm going to eat a lot of food. And so for me, it's it's that struggle. As I get older, it's hard to keep that weight off.
Yeah, I know how hard it is. You guys have to work out a lot too. I'm guessing you're in the off season, huh?
Well, post-COVID, I haven't done a whole lot.
I know how that is. All right, now we're going to go on to the questions. Some of the athletes already submitted questions, so I'm going to go down the list here. So I know, Elena, you're actually first, so get ready.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for being here today and teaching me a little bit more about the show, Top Chef. My questions are, what is your favorite dish to cook? Who inspired you to become a chef? And in today's society, why is it more important now than ever to be an advocate for social justice?
Wow, Lana, those are some good questions.
I know, right?
How much time do we have? we may have time for this. Okay, so favorite thing to cook. Not so much a dish, but favorite thing to cook. We'll get that out of the way very quickly. Mushrooms. I love them. The reason, and I think the reason I love mushrooms so much is, you know, when you're like a kid, you know, you go find that mud puddle and you make a mud cake. You know, we maybe all done that. And well, I took a bite one day just because I thought, why not taste it? And to me, mushrooms are the closest thing we can get to eating dirt, to eating the earth. And there's something about that I like. And so I love mushrooms. Number two, you know, my dad suggested I become a chef. And so that was where I kind of started. I just loved food. In terms of a mentor, I never worked long enough in one restaurant to say I had an actual mentor, but one book especially made a big impact on my life. And funny story about that book. My dad brought it home one day. He said he got it out of the library where he worked. Now, my dad was a correctional officer in a county jail. So number one, I don't know how big that library could have been. And I had no idea what Jacques Pepin's La Technique book was doing in that library. but he brought it home. And, you know, the one thing, as I mentioned, I would have been diagnosed with ADHD, and I had a hard time reading recipes. I really struggled. I couldn't get at what they were trying to sort of tell me, and lengthy and all these, you know, struggle. And Jacques' book, La Technique, he talked about how recipes weren't important. It was about technique. And once you understood technique, you can get rid of the recipes. And to me, that was just like, it just unlocked a whole world for me, where I wasn't stuck on these recipes. And, you know, I'll give you, for instance, you know, you'll find a recipe nowadays that says, you know, get a lamb shoulder and, you know, have the butcher debone it and tie it for you. And it'll say, you know, cut carrot, celery, onion, leek into 1/4-inch pieces, and in a large,
Mirepoix.
yeah, exactly. In a large casserole with a 1/4 cup of oil, brown the lamb on all 4 sides, remove it from the pan, add the mirepoix and let that cook until it's lightly brown. Add the lamb shoulder back in and cover it with, you know, 2 cups of red wine and 1 quart of chicken stock. You know, put in a bouquet garni, whatever that is, right? A bouquet garni, which is really just a bunch of herbs, and maybe some garlic, and partially cover and put in the oven for 3 hours. Well, they could simply say braise the lamb shoulder, right? Because that's all they're telling you, right? So, but once you know that, whenever I saw a recipe for braising, I got rid of all the instructions. I looked at the ingredients and was like, oh, okay, cool, I got this. And so that book, and I guess Jacques Pepin had a big influence, and I've got to know him over the years, and he's just a fantastic guy.
Yeah, he got to judge with you guys a couple times too.
He did. He started the foundation, and he's actually working with ex-inmates to teach them how cooking skills. So when they come out,
That's great.
Skills, it's really a great organization. In terms of being an advocate, you know, my feeling is, especially around hunger, when my wife made her film documentary about hunger, I thought I knew a little bit about hunger. I did a lot of work with organizations like Meals on Wheels and Share Our Strength, and, you know, No Kid Hungry, and raising money at events. And so I thought I knew a little bit about the issue. I remember I took a media training class or something. But when my wife started researching to do the film, we found, you know, the one thing that really hit home was that, you know, we can end hunger in this country, end it.
Yeah.
If the government actually funded programs to do that. And so once the film came out, you know, we started showing, the film got distribution, so it was in the theater, it played at Sundance, and but then we started playing at community centers, and, you know, we go to Washington and play for, you know, members of Congress, and you know, I realized that I have a soapbox, you know, because of TV, and you know, I have a lot of people on social media, and so I figured, you know, I got to use my voice for good, and I think everyone should. Everyone needs to advocate for either something or yourself at times. I think it's really important. You need to know, especially nowadays, you know, where do you stand? I think it's so important. And you know, looking at what's important in this country, I think that we have to, you know, learn how to be advocates, because there's a lot of injustice in the world. And if you don't either join a movement or stand up and speak your mind and be counted and vote, by the way, then you know, you can't risk the fact that someone's going to do it for you. You have to, I think, you know, stand up. It's part of democracy. It's part of really, when you think about it, how the country was built. I mean, you think about the founding of this country. A lot of people actually spoke out, and a lot of people were interested in a type of social justice and freedom. And so I think it's really incumbent upon us as a society and you know, to get out there and be a good advocate for whatever you choose to advocate for.
I couldn't agree more with you, Tom.
Those are great questions.
Thanks, Selena. All right, Willie, you're up to bat.
Okay, so good evening, Chef Tom. So glad to be with you tonight. So one of my questions is this: do you think there is an advantage for chefs who completed in the most recent season of the show Top Chef?
An advantage for them. Oh, I see what you're saying. So for the All-Star season, an advantage for the two that were in the season right before?
Yeah, I think it's what he's asking.
No, that's, yeah, maybe, possibly, because, the show, most people don't really, sort of, it doesn't sink in how difficult it is. It's almost like training. And so maybe coming out of training, which was the previous season, and they were, ready to go for the next season. But I don't know if they actually had an advantage because they didn't go so far. But possibly, yeah. We like to think that you come in and it's a pretty even playing field. I think the older you get, there's a disadvantage because it takes a lot out of you. We hear the chefs halfway through, they start to complain how difficult it is and how hard it is for them. So, it's a lot of running around and it's constant. It never stops. And so, but it's a good question. Yeah, I never thought about that, but possibly, yeah.
Thanks, Lily.
Thank you.
All right, I know Alexa's got a question.
I do. I'm reading a question from one of our athletes, Christine, who couldn't be here. So her question is, what was the most easy recipe that you've created? What's the most difficult? And are there any healthy recipes that are easy to make?
Well, I'll give you the easiest one I can make. I think it's healthy. One pot, okay? Pasta dish. So when I was a kid growing up, my mom made cavatelli and broccoli probably once a week. It was broccoli, cavatelli's a pasta, it's like kind of slightly rolled, and garlic, olive oil, and a good amount of pecorino cheese. We couldn't afford Parmesan Reggiano in my house, so it was pecorino. So my mother made it a little differently, but I started making it in one pot. So if you boil water, you put salt in it, right? You cook the pasta. So the pasta, dried cavatelli will probably take, 10, 12 minutes to cook. Let's say 10 minutes to cook, right? And so if broccoli, maybe will take, 5 minutes. You cut it into small pieces, 5 minutes to cook. So 5 minutes into that pasta cooking, you add the broccoli, right? You let that cook together, right? You got to get like a measuring cup and save about, 2 cups of that pasta water. That's very important. You take it out of the pot and save it. Just hold on to that. Then when the pasta's cooked and the broccoli's cooked all in one pot, you drain the whole thing, right? Put it in a colander, you drain it. You take that pasta and broccoli, put it back in the pot that you have the water and cooking in, right? So back in that one pot. Also, when you add the broccoli, you also add like 2 cloves of garlic that are sliced really thin or chopped up. I slice it because if you chop it too much, it'll go through the colander. So if you slice it thin, it'll stay in the colander. And so that cooks all together. You dump it out, goes back into the pot, right? And then you put in your olive oil, a little bit of the olive oil, you let it start cooking, maybe for, lower the flame, let it start to cook. Then you add some of that pasta water, not all of it, a little bit, just to see how much you need. You add a little pasta water, you add some more olive oil, you add a good amount of the cheese, toss it together and look at it. If it looks kind of saucy, if it looks dry, add a little more pasta water. If it looks like it's coating the pasta with the sauce, then it's ready to go. That's it. It's healthy, it's easy, and it's one pot. That's one of my favorite recipes. I make it, probably once a month or so. So that's an easy one. There are so many recipes that are easy, but cooking, it's like anything. How do you get good at something?
That's a good point.
You practice, right? You want to get good at cooking, you have to cook. It's like anything. If you play an instrument, how do you get good at playing an instrument? You practice. Cooking's like anything else. You practice, you'll get good at it. And so, for me, like learn, get out there and cook a little bit, and things will start coming to you. Things will get easier. But there's so many recipes that are healthy. There's so many books out there. But for me, I see a lot of, I like steak. I like steak too, Willie, but eat some vegetables too. I love, for me, vegetables, that's where flavor comes from. Meat's meat, a good piece of steak, yeah, that's great. A good piece of lamb, a good piece of fish. But when I'm trying to create flavors, I get that from vegetables and herbs and things like mushrooms and sauces and stuff like that. So, someone says, I've been convinced I'm unhealthy being a vegetarian. I don't think so. I think whatever you're doing is healthier for the planet. I can tell you that much. It all depends. You know, if you're eating a lot of dairy and stuff like that as a vegetarian, that you know, everything in moderation. How's that? Yeah, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. That's I like that. Have you ever cooked New York? Yeah, I've cooked steaks, New York strips. I've cooked a lot of steaks in my life. I don't. One of my restaurants is 2 of my restaurants in Las Vegas are steakhouses. So we cook probably in that restaurant probably 100 or so New York steaks every night. But yeah, I cooked a few of those.
Okay, next I know is, who's next? on
Someone
the
asked a
list?
question. There's a question here in the chat. Said, did I ever cook on Top Chef? I have.
I already said, actually.
Yeah, on a
In
couple
the
of
quick fire in season 8, I remember really well.
there was that. There was the quick fire in season 8, and then I did something last season too. I'm forgetting what it was, but then also I cooked for all the contestants in the, you know, right before the finale.
A couple times, yeah.
We were in Italy, and I made squab and a bunch of roasted vegetables and stuff. And so, I've done that a few times in finale. I remember in Denver, and we were actually I think in Aspen or up in the mountains. For the contestants, I made a whole stuffed sea bass.
Yeah, you and Graham.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Graham and I cooked. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so a few times.
All right, so next I know Melissa's got some questions that she had earlier, so I'm gonna go to Melissa next.
Thank you, Sam.
Mhm.
Okay. See if I can. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Melissa.
When you were with Top Chef, did you cook with Emerald? And what was your favorite dish with him?
We never cooked together. Emerald was a judge on the show, but here's the thing about Emerald that I love. Emerald is a big game fisherman, and he and I once a year get together and go out fishing, and that's the best.
Oh, really?
And he has Emerald's been very successful in his career, and he's got this very big boat, and there's a full-on kitchen in this boat, and so we enjoy fishing together, and we'll cook on the boat, and he's a great man, Emerald. He's a really good guy. I like him a lot. Mhm.
Do you have a favorite hot sauce?
Hold on, Melissa, we're gonna have to
Well,
cut
no,
you off.
I'll answer that question. I'll answer that question. So I'm an investor in
Yeah,
Cholula.
that's it.
I'm an investor in Cholula, so of course that's my favorite one.
Yeah, because you were in we watched the
That
hot one.
video was funny.
That's fun. That was fun.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did he name the boat the BAM?
No,
I just
No.
had to do that. I had to do that.
it's not the BAM. I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh God, why? I'm forgetting
That's
the name of the
okay.
boat.
That's okay. If you don't remember, that's
Old
okay.
Miss, maybe. I don't remember. I think it's Old Miss. His wife went to Old Miss College, and so I think he named it after what's college. I don't remember.
Okay, so next on my list, Dave, my Senor Godoy has a question for you. He actually is from Ecuador, and he's actually been doing this little Spanish class on Fridays with us, and it's really been fun.
Wonderful to meet you, Chef Tom. How are you?
Good. Nice meeting you as well.
My question is, how does it feel working as a recognized chef?
Well, it has its advantages, of course, being recognized, but it also has its disadvantages, and I'll tell you. I mean, I shouldn't. It's not that much of a disadvantage, but it used to be before I was on TV. I was a chef before TV, and I could go out in my restaurant in the dining room and say hi to people, and just say hi, and that was it. Now I go out there and people want to take pictures, and so it's after a while it's like okay, but it's all part of the job now. As chefs, when you have a restaurant, people want to know who you are. They want to know your story. They want to know, they're coming and spending money in your restaurant, and I think it's part of the show. It's part of going out there and meeting people. So that kind of works out. It's okay. It's okay. I can't complain. I never expected Top Chef to be what it was. I mean, Sam knows the story. I said no 3 times before I said yes. Was that one of the questions?
No, actually, no, but
I kept saying
I already did it.
Me to do it, and I really didn't want to do it. And I had done a little bit of TV before that, but like things like cooking segments on the Today Show and stuff like that. And I didn't really want to do it. And I decided to take a chance, and I thought maybe the show would have lasted a couple of seasons, and whatever.
Who would have been the head judge if you didn't do it? Then I wonder.
I have no idea. I don't know who they were talking to.
That's a good
You
question.
could ask that question, yeah.
All right, so I know who's next. Who's next on the
Thank you
list?
so much,
You're
Tom.
welcome. Sam?
Like Sam froze. Monique, I think you
Oh.
had a question, right?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I just got to grab something to drink real quick.
For
My
sure.
my internet's cutting out a little bit here and there. Hold on.
Monique, you at the ready?
She's ready. She's ready once Tom gets back.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm probably thinking it's a two-part question. I wrote one part in, but Sam's probably thinking of my other part, but I don't know if
I don't think I did.
today. No, I mean it's the second part to the question, but I don't know if you
Well,
were
we're only
thinking.
cutting to one question right now, sadly.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, he's back.
I'm back.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm great, Monique. How you doing?
I'm good. I actually am one of the biggest fans of Top Chef. I've actually watched it from season 1.
Monique, I think you're my competition now.
Yeah, Monique, you'll have
I
to
know,
play some
right?
Jeopardy against Sam.
Okay, so I know a lot of the quick fires involved seafood. So what was your favorite, I'll say, seafood and cheese combination that you didn't think would work on Top Chef? It has to be one of them.
Okay. I'm not a fan of cheese and seafood. And you know that, don't you?
Yes, I know that. Yes.
You know that. That's like a trick question.
Yes.
It's one of those things, I don't love it. And the other trick part of that question is I don't do the quick fires.
Only a couple, like the mise en place ones.
Yeah, I do usually the first one for the season, and then occasionally.
Yeah. I meant you say the elimination challenge. Sorry, the elimination.
Yeah,
What
I
was
don't.
your favorite one?
Yeah, I don't. I don't think I had one. We had so few, cheese and fish combos, and whenever we get one, we usually tell them that don't do that ever again.
Right.
Yeah, and not only me, Padma hates it too.
Oh, I can tell.
Not just me, but I'm not a fan of tuna melts either. But
I hate tuna melts.
anyway.
All right, thanks, Monique. I actually got a question from someone that's actually about to leave, so I'm just going to read it for them. So my friend Rachel wants to know, has there ever been a dish that you personally disliked, but you judged positively because of the competition, skill, and execution involved?
That is a great question. And I'll tell you why that's a great question. So as we talked earlier, we had a lot of the ex-contestants come back as judges this year. And I would hear them say, I don't like this. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You're not judging on whether or not you like it. You're judging on how well they made it. And so it's no secret that I hate okra. But if someone makes okra, I'm going to eat it. And I'm going to judge on how they made that okra, not on whether or not I like it. And so, I like a steak medium rare. This is why I always ask a chef, what was your intention? If they said, I want to cook it medium, okay, then they did that. Then I'm going to judge on how they cooked it. Is it medium? Or, if there's a combination that I don't care so much for, I'll never, say you're going to lose because you made something I don't like. I look at technique, I look at seasoning, because for me, that stuff is really subjective. It's like, I know a proper cooked piece of fish looks like. I know something that's seasoned, how it tastes. And so those are the things I look at first. And usually somebody gets tripped up just by those two things, whether or not something's handled properly or something is seasoned properly. And then we'll get into, the challenge and whether or not it adhered to the rules of the challenge, obviously, and things like that. But so, I don't know any particular one dish that isn't to my liking, but I judge it positively. But there's a lot of things that I don't like or I wouldn't do. But I never use personal preferences in judging.
Smart, especially if someone actually used to work for you back in the day was on that.
In the new season, someone worked for me.
I know you can't say, it's all right.
It would say the first episode, and I can't tell you how that worked out.
I can't wait for it to come on TV.
Yes.
So my friend Stephanie has a question next. Let me just go to her.
Hi, Chef Tom. How are you?
Good, Stephanie. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm a prep cook for a retirement home. I've been there 23 years. And I have a question for you. Do you go to other retirement homes or restaurants and taste other chefs cooking and like write a review for them?
No, I don't write reviews, and you know, I typically go out to eat to enjoy it, not to work. And the only time I do what I do when I'm critical on food is when I'm on the show.
Okay.
Other than that, if I'm going out, I'm going out to enjoy myself and to have a good time and go out with friends. And there's too much pressure on me judging something, so I just try to take that judge hat off and just kind of, also being a chef for 30 something years, if I go to restaurants, a lot of times it's someone who I know, and I'm not going to criticize their food. That wouldn't be a nice thing to do. So,
Great question, Steph.
Good question, though.
Thank you.
All right. So next is Carissa. All right, Carissa. Can you unmute yourself, please? There we go.
What's your favorite basketball?
My favorite basketball team is the LA Lakers.
Oh, wow.
I'm happy they won for
I've been a Laker fan
Kobe.
my whole life. I don't watch a whole lot of professional sports these days, but when I was a kid growing up, the Lakers were my favorite team, and I guess they still are. I want to answer a question from Jason Kaufman. It's from Jason's mother, and they want to know if I make a traditional Italian feast of the seven fishes on Christmas Eve. Yes, I do. So the feast of it's a tradition in Italian families, Italian American families, to do what we call the Feast of the Seven Fishes, or some people call it Feast of 13 Fishes, on Christmas Eve. So we only eat fish. Now, when I was growing up, my grandmother, who lived right next door to me, she would do it. But it wasn't like a big deal because we were kids and we were, my mother and father were running around just trying to get Christmas taken care of. And but we would stop in and eat, and it was always like things like fried smelts, and there was like a scungili salad. Scungili is really conked, and so it was conch salad, and then there was always like linguine and clam sauce and things like that. But it wasn't a big deal. I started when my grandmother got a little older. I took it over and started making a very big deal of it, and I think for the last 30 years, probably I've made this meal, and it's a favorite of my family's. We do a big Christmas Eve celebration, and my meal usually starts off with Frito misto. So Frito misto is just mixed, literally translates to mixed fried stuff, and so but we do squid and little white bait, so it's fried calamari, the white bait, pieces of sole, cut up. And then I fry parsley and lemons, thin slices of lemons and fennel. So we do that. I do a couple of crudos or raw fish dishes that are out. And usually there's one or two dishes that I do that not sort of part of the traditional repertoire, but I'll do some new things. But then when we sit down, there's a salt cod, which is really traditional. So salt cod is just that. It's salted cod that you have to soak in water for 2 days to get rid of the salt. And then I steam it and just toss it with garlic and lemon and parsley and olive oil. And then I make a salad that my grandfather used to make every year. And it was beets that were boiled beets and then peeled, and celery and artichokes and anchovy. So we got the fish in there, anchovy, garlic. There was hot cherry peppers, celery, and then a good amount of olive oil and red wine vinegar. And you just let that marinate for overnight. And so we serve that. And then I make something called a cachuco, which is a big fish stew. So it starts off with something called a sofrito, which is celery, onion, and leeks cooked for 2 hours in olive oil, really, really slow. And then you add squid to that and let that cook for an hour. And then you add clams to that until they just start to open up. And then you add tomato. and let that all cook together. And then you start adding the seafood. And it's usually shrimp and lobster and scallops and mussels and clams and then I do a cod, not a salt cod, a regular cod that I cook with leeks and black olives and preserved lemon, and that's usually it. And it's a meal that takes a couple hours to eat, but that's the traditional meal, and I guess I do that. Thanks for that question.
All right, we got one last question before we have to wrap things up, sadly. My buddy Bailey, I know, has got a pretty good question that he put in a little while ago.
All right, Bailey, let's hear it.
Let's hear it.
Hello, I'm a really big fan of you. So, did you make cookies before?
Bailey, I'm not much of a baker.
Did you make,
What's that?
Bailey, what'd you say, buddy?
Yeah, so
did you make,
yeah, cookies. So cookies. I don't bake a lot of. Here's the thing. I don't bake a lot of baked stuff. I started baking bread a lot.
do you know?
And so, but I don't bake a whole lot of like cakes and cookies and pies and stuff like that. My first job in a restaurant, I did work in the bakery for a while, and I really disliked it. And so I don't do a whole lot of baking, except for this year. I really got into making sourdough bread, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. But thanks for that question, Bailey.
And I think that's the last question, because sadly we have to end this. Sadly.
Well, I want to say this was a great way to spend this evening.
I agree, especially after coming back from Portland.
Yeah, I just got back, but this was good. Usually my Zoom calls are all business, not fun like this. So thanks Sam for reaching out, and I was really happy I could spend this time with you and your friends.
They all enjoyed it, just judging by the chat alone.
Made me hungry.
You got a nice kitchen there. I'm sure you find something to eat in there. Anyway, thank you so much.
Great. All right, Sam. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Sam, for hosting. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight.
Hold on, Jason. Someone wants to say something.
Oh.
Not me. Not you,
it?
Kayla. Lexi, just tried to meet her.
So working, it was going on and off. I just want to say thank you. This was awesome. I think everyone had such a great time, and it was so cool to hear all your stories. And I know Sam is the biggest Top Chef fan. Sorry, Monique. But
too.
Sam's got some credentials with that Jeopardy win. So
I still have the apron on to prove it.
Anyway, good seeing you. Everyone stay safe out there.
All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Janet, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.